It was a quiet night on Earth. The sky was dark and calm, stars shining like cold silver eyes. In the small control room of a deep space observatory, two scientists were working late. The machines hummed, screens glowed, and everything felt normal, until a strange sound broke the silence. At first, it was just static. A sharp crackle like broken radio noise. The younger scientist, David, leaned closer to the monitor. He thought it was interference, maybe just another satellite passing by. But the sound came again. This time it was clearer, sharper, and almost like a voice. "Do you hear that?" David whispered. The older scientist, Dr. Miller, frowned. He adjusted the dial, filtering out the noise. Then the voice returned louder than before. The words were slow, mechanical, but human-like. It said, "A bride seeks a human." Both men froze. They replayed the recording again and again. Each time the same message echoed through the speakers. A bride seeks a human. The signal was coming from far beyond the solar system, from a direction no probe had ever reached. Dr. Miller stared at the screen. "This is not natural. Someone or something is speaking to us." Within hours, the news spread. Government officials were alerted. Military satellites turned their sensors to the skies, and every observatory in the world tried to catch the same message. And they did. The signal repeated every 10 minutes, always the same words, always the same tone. The world was in shock. Was it a joke, a hoax, or was it real? The world reacts. The next morning, television channels and news apps exploded with headlines. Strange signal detected. Alien bride calls for human husband. Scientists confirm message from deep space. People laughed at first. Memes appeared online. Some joked that aliens were watching Earth reality shows and wanted to join. Others feared it was a trap, a warning before invasion. In crowded cafes, people argued. In classrooms, children whispered about alien queens and space marriages. But hidden behind the jokes was a deep unease. Why would an alien call for a human husband? And why now? Government meetings inside secret halls of power, leaders met in panic. Generals demanded military readiness. Scientists pushed for communication. Politicians worried about fear and chaos. "Maybe it's just a trick," one leader said. "But what if it's not?" Another replied. The signal was too consistent, too precise, too powerful to be human-made. Whoever sent it had technology far beyond Earth's, and they were asking, not for war, not for trade, but for something strange, almost impossible. A husband. The message grows stronger. The third night, something changed. The signal grew louder, almost desperate. The voice repeated faster. "A bride seeks a human. A bride seeks a human." Then came something new, a second phrase. "Come quickly before it is too late." The observatories confirmed it. The message was evolving, almost like the sender knew Earth was listening. Fear spread through the scientific community. What was running out of time? What danger was there in the stars? The public suspicion, ordinary people began to wonder if governments were hiding the truth. Videos went viral showing strange lights in the sky. Amateur radio operators claimed they also received the call. Some believed the bride was real, waiting somewhere beyond the stars. Others warned it was a trap to lure humanity into destruction. Religious leaders gave speeches. Some said it was a test from God. Others claimed it was the devil's trick. Conspiracy groups shouted that the world was about to be invaded. And yet, in every city, millions of eyes turned upward at night, staring into the black sky, waiting for something, anything, to appear. The scientists' discovery late one night. David and Dr. Miller found a pattern hidden in the signal. It was not just words. It was coordinates, star maps carefully hidden between each pulse of sound. When decoded, the coordinates pointed to a region of space thousands of light years away. A place no human spacecraft had ever touched. Dr. Miller's hands shook as he wrote the final numbers. "She is calling us," he whispered. "Not just with words, but with a map." David's heart raced. "Then she is real." The scientists looked at each other, and for the first time they both felt the same truth. Somewhere out there, an alien bride was waiting. The hook for next part. Governments prepared secret missions. Satellites turned their gaze to the coordinates, and the world held its breath. The voice repeated again in the silence of space. "A bride seeks a human. Come quickly before it is too late." And on that night, the stars no longer felt so far away. The world was still reeling from the strange signal when the sky itself gave an answer. It began with a glow on the edge of the atmosphere, a light so bright it outshone the stars. At first, people thought it was a comet, maybe a meteor shower, but the light did not move like falling rock. It grew larger, brighter, and steadier, until the night above Earth looked as if a second moon had arrived. Across cities and small towns, people poured out of their homes. Streets filled with curious eyes staring upward. Cars stopped in the middle of highways, drivers climbing out to look. Children pointed, elders whispered prayers, and governments rushed to send jets into the air. But no weapon, no machine of Earth could hide the truth. Something enormous was entering orbit. It was a ship. Not a rocket, not a satellite, but a living city of metal drifting across the sky. Its surface glowed with lines of blue light, forming strange patterns like veins across a giant body. It was silent, yet its presence was louder than thunder. Every camera, every phone, every news channel turned upward to capture it. The mysterious bride had arrived. Inside military control rooms, alarms rang. Generals shouted for defense systems to be ready. Nuclear silos unlocked, radar scanned, and fighter jets circled. Yet deep down, even the most powerful leaders knew. This ship was beyond them. If it meant harm, Earth could not resist. The power difference was too great. Humanity's weapons were pebbles against a mountain. Then the ship moved. Slowly, carefully, it turned its massive body until a single glowing circle faced the planet. It was not a weapon, though many feared it was. Instead, the circle pulsed with white light, and without warning, a hologram appeared across the skies of Earth. Every screen, every device, even the very clouds above, shimmered with the same vision. She appeared, the alien bride. She was tall, graceful, her figure wrapped in flowing silver cloth that shimmered like liquid stars. Her skin was pale with a faint glow, her eyes large and luminous, reflecting sadness and hope together. Her voice was soft, but it carried across every language, every land, every soul. "I am Princess Leora of the House of Vera," she spoke, each word translating instantly into the minds of those who listened. "My world is dying. My people are fading. Only a bond with a human can save us. I come in peace and I beg for help. I seek a husband among you." The world fell silent. Not a sound, not a whisper. Just her voice echoing in the air like a sacred call. In living rooms, families stared at their televisions in disbelief. In churches, worshippers dropped to their knees. In classrooms, children watched wide-eyed as their teachers struggled to explain what no book had prepared them for. She was not a monster. She was not a warrior. She was a bride standing before the entire planet, pleading for love to save her world. But even beauty could not erase fear. Leaders gathered in secret meetings demanding answers. Was this a trick? A clever mask to hide an invasion? Or was it real? That the survival of an alien race depended on a union with a single human. Scientists scrambled to study her words, her image, her ship. They confirmed her technology was unlike anything known. The signal's coordinates matched her location exactly. There was no doubt she was the sender of the strange message. She was the voice that cried through the stars. Princess Leora raised her hands as if in prayer. Her eyes shimmered with desperation. "Your kind is strong where ours is weak. The blood of humans carries a spark that we no longer have. Without it, my people will die within a single cycle of your sun. I cannot return without a bond. I cannot save my world alone." Her words shook the hearts of millions. Some were moved to tears. Others shouted in anger. Why should Earth give up one of its own to an alien cause? Why should anyone believe her story? Yet beneath the fear, curiosity grew. Who would she choose? And why did she believe only a human could save her? The broadcast ended as suddenly as it began. The ship dimmed, shrinking back into the dark sky. But the silence left behind was heavier than her words. Across the planet, debates exploded. Some saw her as a savior, others as a threat. Religious leaders warned of the end of times, while romantics dreamed of cosmic love. For the first time in history, the entire world shared the same question. Would someone step forward to answer her call? In the quiet of his small apartment, David, the young scientist who had first heard the signal, sat by his window, staring at the glowing ship above. He felt something strange inside him, a pull, as if her words had been meant for him alone. He shook his head, laughed nervously, and whispered to himself, "Impossible." But deep in his chest he knew the truth. The story had only begun. and Earth's future was about to change forever. The world did not sleep that night. Every television, every phone, every radio spoke of only one thing: the alien princess. Some called her a liar, others a savior, but whether people feared her or loved her, no one could ignore her. Her image replayed on every screen, her silver robes, her glowing eyes, her desperate words. A bond with a human can save my people. In a hidden underground hall, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The air was heavy, the room filled with whispers and tension. Generals spoke of defense. Scientists argued for contact. Politicians feared riots. But one question drowned out the rest. Was she telling the truth? Dr. Miller, the old scientist who first received the signal, stood before them. His face was pale, but his voice firm. The coordinates she sent match a dying star system. It is possible her world faces collapse. She may not be lying. A general slammed his fist on the table. Or it's a trick to lower our guard. A trap. Another voice, calm but cold, spoke from the shadows. What if it is not a trap? What if we are the trap? If her kind truly depends on us, then we hold power we don't understand. That is just as dangerous. The room fell silent. For the first time, leaders realized this was not about war or peace. This was about trust and sacrifice. While the powerful argued, the people of Earth argued louder. Protests filled the streets. Some marched with signs that read, "Help her." Others shouted, "Keep Earth safe." Couples joked about sending volunteers, while young dreamers prayed they would be chosen. Fear and fascination grew hand in hand, wrapping the planet in restless energy. Then, without warning, the sky lit up again. The ship above Earth pulsed with light, and once more Princess Leora appeared. This time she did not hover above cities. She appeared in the middle of the leaders' meeting itself. A tall hologram of shimmering silver light stood among them, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Humans of Earth," she said softly, her voice echoing across the chamber. "I do not come to conquer. I come to plead. My world, Vera, is falling into silence. Our people cannot bear children anymore. Our sun grows weak. Our time is short. Only a bond with a human can awaken the spark we lost. Without it, my race will vanish." Her words trembled with emotion. She lowered her gaze as if ashamed. "I was sent as the last hope. I cannot return empty-handed. If I fail, my people will curse my name as the princess who let them die." The leaders stared, their faces unreadable. But behind their silence, unease grew. Why a human? Why not another alien species? Why was her survival tied to them? One leader finally spoke. "If your world is so advanced, why can you not save yourselves?" Leora raised her eyes, and in them was both pain and truth. "Because our greatness was our downfall. We changed ourselves, reaching for perfection. We became strong, but we lost the seed of life. We can live long, but we can no longer begin new life. Only humans carry what we lost." Her voice broke as she added, "We need you, not your armies, not your weapons. Just one heart that will stand with mine." The room shook with whispers. Some were moved, others hardened. But all felt the weight of her plea. Far away in his small apartment, David watched the broadcast again on his screen. He leaned closer, feeling her words tug at him like invisible threads. He did not know why, but every syllable struck deep. When she spoke of loneliness, he felt it. When she begged for help, his chest ached as if she were calling him directly. Friends had laughed at the idea of an alien bride, but to David it no longer seemed a joke. It seemed fate. The broadcast ended with one final message. Leora raised her hand and spoke, her voice steady though her eyes glistened with tears. "Do not delay. Each moment brings my world closer to death. I beg you, choose. A husband must step forward, or my people will vanish into the dust of the stars." And then she was gone, her image dissolving into light. The great ship above Earth went dark once more, silent as a sleeping giant. The leaders argued long into the night, but no answer came. Should they risk trusting her? Should they send someone? Or should they shut their doors to the stars and let her world die unseen? But deep within the crowd of humanity, hearts began to stir. Young men and women whispered dreams of adventure, sacrifice, and glory. Some laughed, some cried, but all felt the same pull. The story of Princess Leora was no longer just hers. It belonged to Earth now. And as the dawn broke, David found himself standing at his window again, staring at the silent ship. He whispered into the pale morning light, "If no one else will go, then maybe I must." The days after Princess Leora's plea were unlike anything Earth had ever known. Entire cities buzzed with speculation. News anchors debated endlessly. Scientists argued on live broadcasts, and people filled the streets with posters and chants. Some demanded to help her, while others shouted warnings of betrayal. The world was split in two, hope and fear balanced on the edge of a blade. Inside the halls of power, the arguments were even louder. Leaders whispered about alliances, danger, and sacrifice. Some believed her words, others demanded proof. Yet one fact remained. The alien princess had asked for a human husband, and Earth had to decide if it would answer. Committees were formed. Names were written down. Volunteers from every country stepped forward, some chasing glory, some chasing curiosity, and others simply desperate for a chance to escape their ordinary lives. But governments could not just send anyone. They wanted someone brave, someone honest, someone who could represent all of humanity. For days, selections were made and rejected. Politicians pushed for their own candidates. Soldiers offered themselves. Even billionaires whispered of deals, eager to be remembered as saviors. But none of them seemed right. None carried the quiet, unshakable heart that the moment demanded. Meanwhile, far from the noise, David tried to live quietly. He walked the streets of his small town, listening to the voices of strangers debating the princess. At the grocery store, he heard a child ask her mother, "If she needs a husband, why can't Daddy help?" In a cafe, he overheard a man whisper, "It's a trap. They'll steal our blood." But every time David closed his eyes, he heard her voice. He saw her eyes shimmering with sorrow, and deep inside he felt something pulling him closer. He had no reason to believe he was special. He was not rich. He was not powerful. He was just a scientist who happened to hear the first signal. Yet somehow, he could not escape the thought that she had been speaking to him all along. On the 7th night after her plea, the sky lit up again. The ship's glowing circle opened, and once more Leora's image appeared, this time across the entire planet at once. Her voice trembled with urgency. "My time grows short. I beg you, humans of Earth, do not delay. Without your answer, my world will fall into silence forever." Her image flickered, and for the first time she looked weak. Her silver robe seemed dull, her voice strained. It was clear that she was not lying. Her world was dying, and so was she. At that moment, governments made their choice. In secret meetings, after long debate, they agreed to present a single candidate. The name that appeared shocked many, angered others, but could not be undone. David, the man who had first heard the signal. The man who had no power, no army, no fortune, only a curious mind and a quiet heart. The reasoning was simple. The princess had spoken through his discovery. The story had begun with him, and perhaps it was meant to end with him. When officials arrived at his door, David was stunned. "Me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why me?" "Because she may have already chosen you," one official replied. David looked at the sky where the great ship glowed faintly in orbit. He felt fear coil in his chest, but also something else. Resolve. He nodded slowly. "Then I'll go." The announcement shook the world. Some cheered him as a hero. Others cursed him as a fool. But no one could ignore him. His face appeared on every screen, his name on every headline. Overnight, David became the man who would walk into the stars for all of humanity. On the day of his departure, crowds filled the launch site. Soldiers stood in lines, cameras flashed, and the air was thick with tension. David wore a simple suit, no medals, no armor. He carried only the weight of Earth's hope and fear on his shoulders. As the ship's beam of light descended to collect him, silence swept the crowd. David took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "For her, and for us." The light wrapped around him, warm and weightless. In a flash, he was lifted from the ground, rising into the sky as millions of eyes watched. The crowd gasped, some in awe, some in terror. Within moments, he vanished into the alien vessel. Inside the ship, David felt his body settle onto smooth, metallic floors that glowed faintly beneath his feet. The air was strange but breathable, filled with a faint scent of flowers he could not name. He looked up, and there she was. Princess Leora stood before him, her silver robes trailing across the floor like water. Her eyes shimmered with relief, and for the first time she smiled. "You came," she whispered. David swallowed hard, his heart racing. I guess I did." She stepped closer, her presence both terrifying and comforting. "Then perhaps my people still have hope." And as the great ship turned away from Earth, carrying David into the unknown, The planet below held its breath. For one man had been chosen, but the true test had only just begun. David's footsteps echoed softly against the glowing floor as he followed Princess Leora deeper into the alien ship. The walls shimmered with a strange light, like veins of liquid silver pulsing with life. He felt small inside this vast, silent vessel, yet every sound of his breath reminded him he was still human. His heart raced, caught between fear and wonder. Leora walked ahead, her silver robes drifting like mist. She spoke without looking back, her voice calm but firm. "Before you can stand beside me, you must prove yourself. My people will not accept you easily. They will test you." David frowned. "Test me how?" She turned, her glowing eyes studying him carefully. "Not with weapons. Not with strength. With trust. With courage. With truth," he swallowed hard. "And if I fail?" Her expression darkened. "Then I cannot return home. My people will die." The weight of her words pressed down on him, heavier than the gravity of Earth he had left behind. He nodded silently, knowing there was no way back. The first chamber opened before them like a living door, walls peeling apart with a hiss. Inside was darkness, thick and endless. As David stepped in, he felt a sudden chill, as if invisible fingers brushed against his skin. The floor vanished beneath him, and he stood on nothing but a thin beam of light stretching forward into the void. A voice whispered in his mind, not Leora's, but something deeper, harsher. "Walk, do not fear." David's legs trembled. Below him stretched an abyss so dark it seemed to pull at his soul. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to cling to safety. But he remembered Leora's plea, her desperate eyes, her trembling words. If he failed here, he failed her. He took one step, then another, forcing his body forward. Shadows rose on either side, twisting into monstrous forms. They hissed his fears aloud. "You are weak. You are small. You will fail her." David clenched his fists and kept walking. "I may be small," he whispered, but I won't stop." At the end of the beam, a soft light grew brighter. With one final step, he emerged into a warm glow. The shadows dissolved, the floor returned beneath his feet, and the first trial was complete. The second chamber opened like a vast dome, filled with swirling mist. The air was heavy, sharp in his lungs. David coughed as a strange pressure pressed down on him. Leora's voice echoed gently from the edge. "This is the breath of my world. Our air is harsh, poisonous to outsiders. If you cannot endure it, you cannot live among us." His chest burned with every inhale. His throat felt raw, his vision blurred. He staggered, falling to his knees. Every breath was fire. He thought of Earth, the soft air, the smell of rain, the simple ease of breathing. Here each moment felt like drowning. But then he thought of her. The princess standing strong while her world withered. Her courage to cross the stars, to beg before all of humanity. If she could fight for her people, could he not fight for one breath more? He pressed his palms to the floor, forcing his body upright. His lungs screamed, but he endured. He took one breath, then another, until slowly the air began to feel less cruel. The mist around him thinned and light returned. The second trial was complete. The third chamber was quiet, almost peaceful. A small pool of glowing water lay in the center, its surface calm and still. Leora stood beside it, her expression unreadable. "This trial is different," she said softly. "It is not about fear or pain. It is about trust. Step into the water and let it take you." "Do not fight it," David frowned. "Take me where?" Her eyes did not waver. "That is for the water to decide." He stared at the pool. Its glow was gentle, inviting, but also strange, almost alive. His instincts told him to be careful, to resist. But he remembered her words. Trust. Slowly, he stepped into the water. It was warm, wrapping around him like a living blanket. The moment he sank to his chest, the pool pulled him under. His heart pounded. Panic screamed in his mind. He wanted to kick, to claw his way out, but he forced himself still. The water closed over his head. Darkness surrounded him. Then, suddenly, visions filled his mind. Earth, his home, his parents, his friends. He saw their faces, smiling, laughing, fading into the distance. Then he saw her, Leora, standing in endless night, reaching out her hand. "Trust me," her voice whispered through the water. He reached back. His hand met hers, warm and steady. Light exploded around him, and he gasped as he rose from the pool, alive, trembling, but stronger. Leora stood there, watching him with quiet relief. "You passed," she said softly. "All three." David staggered, breathless, his body aching but his spirit alive. He looked into her luminous eyes, and for the first time, he saw something more than desperation. He saw respect. "You are not like the others," she said. "Perhaps you truly are the one." As the ship hummed around them, David realized the truth. The trials were not only for him. They were for her, too, to see if she could believe in him. And now both their fates were tied together. But in the shadows of the ship, unseen eyes watched and whispers carried through the walls. Not all of Leora's people wanted this bond, and the hardest trial was still to come. The ship grew quieter after David's final trial. He was given a chamber with soft light and strange walls that shifted colors like breathing skin. The air was gentle here, easier to breathe than before. He lay on the smooth surface of the bed, his body aching but his mind restless. He had survived illusions, poisonous air, and drowning in living water. Yet questions still haunted him. Why him? Why a human? The silence was broken by soft footsteps. Princess Leora entered, her robes glowing faintly in the dim chamber. She looked at him not as a stranger now, but as someone who had proven himself. Yet her eyes carried a weight that seemed heavier than before. "You have passed the trials," she said gently, "but you must know the truth. Without it, you cannot choose freely." David sat up slowly. "The truth?" She lowered her gaze, her hands trembling as they folded before her. For the first time, she seemed less like a queen and more like a woman burdened by guilt. "My people did not always suffer," she began. "Long ago, we were strong, too strong. We reached beyond our limits, seeking perfection. We changed our bodies, our minds, even the core of our blood. We made ourselves faster, stronger, longer lived. But in our pride, we cut away what we thought was weakness. We erased what made us fragile." Her voice cracked and she closed her eyes. "We erased our ability to create life." David froze. The air seemed to thicken around him. He had imagined many things, but not this. "You mean, your people can't?" She nodded, her face pale. "For centuries we tried to fix it. We used machines, clones, endless science. But each attempt brought us closer to extinction. Children became fewer, then none at all. We became a dying people, living long but fading away." David's chest tightened as the pieces began to fall into place. "And that's why you need a human." Leora's eyes glistened with tears, shimmering like liquid stars. "Yes, your kind carries the seed we lost. Your blood still holds the spark of creation. Long ago, before our arrogance, our ancestors were not so different from you. It is only in your kind that the missing thread still lives." The chamber fell silent, her words echoing inside David's mind. He thought of Earth, of humanity's flaws, its mistakes, its fragility. Yet those very flaws, the things her people had erased, were what gave life meaning. He whispered, almost to himself, "So you need me not just as a symbol, but as the key." Leora stepped closer, her eyes locking with his. "Yes, to bond with me is not only marriage. It is union. My blood will merge with yours, and through it my people may live again. But there is a price." David's throat went dry. "What price?" "You cannot return to Earth." Her voice was soft, almost broken. "The bond will change you. You will not be human as you are now. You will belong to my people, to my world. If you agree, you give up everything. Your family, your planet, your future on Earth. You will save us, but you will never go home." The words struck like a blade. He thought of his small apartment, his books, his parents' voices, the streets of his childhood. All of it would vanish if he chose her. His life would no longer be his own. "Why didn't you tell me before?" he asked, his voice heavy. "Because if I told you too soon," she whispered, "you would have turned away. And my world cannot afford to wait. But now you deserve to know. You must choose with open eyes." David turned away, staring at the glowing walls. A storm raged in his chest, fear, anger, sorrow, and something else he could not name. He wanted to scream at her for hiding the truth, yet he could not hate the pain in her voice. She was not lying. She was desperate. And behind her desperation was a kind of courage he could not ignore. Moments stretched like hours. At last he looked back at her. "If I say no, what happens?" Her lips trembled. "Then I will return to my people alone, and we will fade into dust. You will live your life on Earth, but every night when you look at the stars, you will know an entire world died because no one stepped forward." The weight of her words pressed against his soul. It was not just about her. It was about a civilization. Millions of voices that would never be born. Lives erased before they could begin. Leora's eyes filled with tears as she reached for him. "I do not ask this for myself alone. I ask it for the children of tomorrow. Please, David, do not let us die, his heart thundered. He had never felt smaller, yet never more important. The choice was his. The fate of a world rested on his shoulders. And in the silence of the alien ship, David realized the greatest trial was not behind him. It was here now, in this moment of truth. The chamber was silent after Leora's confession. David sat motionless, staring at the glowing walls as if they might offer him an escape. But there was no escape. The truth weighed on him like chains. If he accepted her plea, he would save her people but lose his world forever. If he refused, he would keep his life, but carry the guilt of an entire civilization's death. Leora stood a few steps away, her silver robe still, her luminous eyes fixed on him. She looked fragile now, almost human in her sadness. I will not force you, she said softly. This choice must be yours. David pressed his hands to his face. Memories rushed through him like waves. His parents' laughter, the smell of rain on earth, the comfort of ordinary mornings. Could he really abandon it all? Could he vanish into the stars and never touch home again? And yet another image burned brighter. Leora's trembling voice, her people fading into dust, children never born. A world ending in silence because no one stepped forward. The thought tore at him. Why me? He whispered, his voice breaking. Why does it have to be me? Leora's gaze softened. She stepped closer, her hand almost reaching for him. Because you listened. Out of billions, it was you who heard the first call. You did not turn away. You searched for the signal, you followed the truth even when others doubted. You were chosen not by me but by fate. Her words struck deep. David felt the weight of them in his bones. He realized it was not chance that had brought him here. Every step, every decision had led to this moment. The ship trembled slightly, a low hum echoing through the walls. Leora turned her head, her expression tense. Time is almost gone. My world grows weaker by the hour. If we delay, even this choice will mean nothing. David rose slowly to his feet. His heart pounded so hard it felt like it might tear free from his chest. He looked at her shimmering figure, at the desperate hope in her eyes. Then he looked past her, through the window of the chamber where Earth hung in the distance, blue, fragile, beautiful. Is home, he whispered. If I stay with you, I'll never see it again. Leora's lips trembled. No, you will belong to us, to me, but your sacrifice will live forever, written in the history of my people. You will be remembered as the one who saved a dying world. Tears stung David's eyes. He thought of the billions of humans who would go on living their lives, never knowing his name, never knowing what he gave up. But somewhere, across the galaxy, millions more would breathe because of him. Children would laugh, families would grow, a race would rise again, all because one man had chosen to leave everything behind. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. When he opened them, his voice was steady. I can't let your people die. If this is the only way, then I'll go with you. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Leora's eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow but of relief. She stepped forward and took his hand gently in hers. Her touch was warm, steady, alive. You will not be forgotten, she whispered. You will live in every heartbeat of my people. The ship's walls brightened, glowing with sudden life. Lights pulsed through the corridors like veins of fire. A deep resonant tone filled the air as if the vessel itself understood his decision. The bond was about to begin. David's chest tightened with fear, but he did not let go of her hand. He met her gaze, and for the first time he saw not just desperation in her eyes, but hope. Real shining hope. The chamber shifted, transforming around them. The floor opened to reveal a circle of light, swirling like a pool of stars. Leora led him to its center. This is where our blood joins. Once begun, there is no return. David took a deep breath. His voice was quiet but firm. I'm ready. Leora placed her other hand over his heart, and the light engulfed them both. Heat surged through his body, a mix of pain and wonder. His mind filled with visions of her world. Vast cities, crumbling temples, endless skies fading into darkness. Then came new visions. Children with human eyes and alien light. Laughter echoing where silence had ruled. He felt himself changing, his body no longer only human. The bond was real. The choice was sealed. Outside the ship, Earth watched from below. Millions of eyes stared at the glowing vessel drifting farther into the stars. Some prayed, some wept, some cursed, but all knew history had changed. Inside, as the light dimmed, David stood beside Leora, no longer just a visitor. He was something more, part human, part of her people, bound forever. She looked at him with tears of gratitude and whispered, "You have saved us." And though his heart ached for Earth, David knew his place was now among the stars. The ship turned, leaving the blue planet behind. And as it vanished into the darkness, a question lingered on Earth. Had humanity given away a son, or gained a destiny among the stars?